Hello, and welcome to Color Accessibility, how to use color for accessibility in design. In this video, you will learn why color accessibility is important and some helpful tricks and tips for design. The United States federal government passed Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. This section mandated that federal government websites and technology must be accessible to people with disabilities. While you may not work for the federal government, we all have a responsibility to further that reach of accessibility in our own endeavors. To help us do that, the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, is an international voluntary community founded in 1994 with the goal to standardize best practices in accessibility of technology through their outline called the WCAG 2.1. The first standard of color accessibility is to ensure that color is not the only visual means to convey information, meaning, or an action. For example, instead of simply using red text to indicate a wrong answer or green text to indicate a correct answer, symbols or text should also be visible. Some symbols could include an exclamation mark, check mark, or a cross mark. To further the accessibility of screen readers, using text to mark things such as required fields, correct, or try again can and should also be used. The next standard for color accessibility is to use patterns versus solid colors when prescribing meaning to non-textual content. This way, meaning is not dependent on color. For example, a solid colored graph could appear different shades of gray for an individual with full color blindness, making it difficult to understand which column is which. If we took the same graph and added varying contrasting patterns, the meaning is no longer fixed with determining between specific colors. Next, technique G18 in the WCAG states that for a double A rating, minimum contrast must include a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1 between normal sized text and the background. Let's look at an example. We have three different text boxes, option 1, 2, and 3. The contrast between the text and background of option number 1 has a contrast ratio of 2.1 to 1. That middle example has a contrast ratio of 5.46 to 1, and the last example has a contrast ratio of 1.14 to 1. Option 2 would pass the WCAG 2.1 standards for that double A rating because it has a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. The AAA standard for maximum contrast, an even higher rating in the WCAG 2.1, requires that normal sized text and its background should have a contrast ratio of at least 7 to 1. Notice the contrast ratios of these three examples. If we were aiming for minimum contrast requirements, option 1 would suffice. However, to achieve maximum contrast, example 3 more accurately represents an acceptable ratio. The higher the contrast of the text to its background, the more likely it will be that an individual with color vision impairment will still be able to read. A great resource to reference when searching for contrast ratios in your own design is the WCAG Color Contrast Checker by Accessible Web. This application allows you to input any custom color or select any color using the eyedropper tool. It has the specific guidelines listed and even notes a pass or fail for each standard. Thank you for your interest in the accessibility of color in technology and the web. We hope this video has been helpful in recognizing the importance of color accessibility and how to incorporate the WCAG 2.1 standards in your own projects. Happy designing!